Welcome to Loom Knit Lab. Today we will continue with part 2 of the last minute slouchy hat. In part 1 we completed the ribbon section. In part 2 we're going to start the lace section of the slouchy hat. So let's get started. For the second part you are going to need a stitch marker that's removable, like the one over here. This one looks like a little safety pin that you can close, or something similar to this one. This one opens up too and it's easy to take off and on from the pegs. So get one of those. Go ahead and place your stitch marker on the first peg. There we go. Now you're ready to continue with row number 9 of the stitch pattern. It begins by saying yarn over, knit 2 together. To create the yarn over, you're going to need an empty peg. To create the empty peg, you're going to remove the loop from the first peg and place it on the second peg, and that leaves the first peg open. Right there you can create your yarn over by simply e-wrapping around the peg. The knit 2 together will be done on the second peg, and to do this you are going to e-wrap around the peg, and then you're going to lift the bottommost 2 loops off the peg. 1, 2. There. That's the yarn over knit 2 together. You're going to repeat that again. So let's create the yarn over by removing the stitch off the peg. Yarn over around the empty peg. E-wrap the next peg and lift the bottom 2 loops off the peg. There we go. Let's see that again. Yarn over is going to be created. You're going to need an empty peg. So lift the loop off the peg. Place it on the next peg, e-wrap around the empty peg. The e-wrap creates the yarn over, and now in the next peg you have your knit 2 together. Simply e-wrap, lift the bottommost 2 loops off the peg. There you go. Continue doing this all the way around the loom, and that will be row number 9. I have just finished row 9. I am ready for row 10, which simply says to knit. For the knit, we are going to use the e-wrap stitch. Simply e-wrap all the pegs. We know how to do that. Go counterclockwise around each of the pegs. And then lift the bottom loop off, and that will be your row number 10. Go ahead and complete row number 10. Finish e-wrapping the whole row. Now I am ready to lift the bottom loop off. Again, this is row number 10. You're just lifting the bottom over the top. I am finishing knitting over. That's the first peg I knitted. I am ready for row number 11. For row number 11, it says to move this stitch marker over one spot to the left. So take it out and place it in the next peg. Perfect. You're going to skip the first peg, and now this peg with the stitch marker becomes your first peg for row number 11. Row number 11 says to yarn over, knit 2 together on the next peg. We already know how to create the yarn over, and we know that we need an empty space. Now the working yarn is coming from the last peg. Simply run it behind the peg that you're not using this time around. Take the stitch off this peg with the stitch marker. Place it on the second peg. Perfect. Now you have an empty peg and a peg with 2 loops on it. E-wrap the empty peg for your yarn over. E-wrap the next peg for your knit 2 together. Lift the bottom most 2 loops off the peg. Again, yarn over, lift it to empty that peg. Place that loop on the next adjacent peg, yarn over, Now we're gonna knit. Perfect. The next one is yarn over. Knit it together. Make sure you open up that stitch, place it. Empty peg, you know what happens on it, yarn over on it, then knit the next peg with the 2 loops, and continue all around the loom doing that. Finishing that row, ewrap for the yarn over, and I have the knit 2 together. The bottommost 2 loops. The next row is fairly simple. All you need to do is knit it. So simply ewrap all the pegs and knit them over. Go ahead and continue. I completed row number 12 right now. And now I am ready to repeat that whole stitch section again. Those 4 rows constitute one whole stitch pattern. So we need to repeat those 4 rows, rows 9 through 12, until the hat reaches the desired length. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna get you started on the next round, but you already know how to do almost everything. So just make sure that when you start row 9, you move this stitch marker over to one spot to the left. So take it off. Oops, there it goes. This is where we were. Move it to one spot towards the left. If it's easier, you can just take this stitch off the peg and place the stitch marker on. Perfect. And now you're ready to begin row number 9. Again, your last peg, your last stitch from row number 12 was right here, and we're gonna skip that one and take the yarn behind that peg, and you're ready to begin row number 9 again, where the stitch marker is. Right here we have to create a yarn over, so move this stitch over one space to the left to leave the empty peg for your yarn over. Ewrap, that's your yarn over. And the next peg, it says that we have to do a knit 2 together, and we already know how to do that. Just simply lift the bottommost 2 loops off the peg. Perfect. Next one is a yarn over, move it over, knit 2 together, again yarn over. We need the empty peg for that yarn over, so move it over, yarn over, knit 2 together. Continue all around the loom in this fashion. So basically what you need to keep doing is repeating those 4 rows over and over, row 9, 10, 11, and 12. Each time before you start number 9, row number 9, you need to move this stitch marker over one space to the left. Before you start row number 11, you also need to move this stitch marker one space to the left. So this stitch marker will be moving along, and that will mark your first peg for that row. Move the stitch marker over to mark your row number 9 and your row number 11. Once you have done that, you're ready to continue with the instructions. You know how to do a yarn over. All you need to do is empty the peg, and then next to the yarn over you have a knit 2 together. So simply when you empty the peg, move that stitch over to the peg next to it to the left. Again, we're going to continue these 4 rows, rows 9 through 12, until your hat reaches the desired length. For my hat, the Slouchy hat, mine was 9 inches from the cast on edge all the way to the bind off edge. If you want to make it longer, go ahead and knit more rows. For the third part of the video, I am going to show you how to bind off the hat, take it off the knitting loom. So stay tuned, this will be coming up next week. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.